by in D.C.
Hannity, it was amazing to see all the former presidents together. I mean, we have such a rough and tumble political world and political life here in Washington especially. And it is kind of sad that it takes something like this for everyone to pause, and most people, not everybody, people to pause and appreciate a life, as you said, well lived, and a man who immense patriotism and love of family and love of country. And it's as simple as that. It's just nice when that can happen.
You know what bothers
me? It doesn't happen often.
It bothers me, though, that they can't say a good thing in life when somebody's running. Yeah. And as Michael Goodwin said, Democrats love Republicans when they're dead, but how did they treat them in life would be more telling.
Yeah, it's transparent. I mean, everybody's been outed on this, okay? Because I actually was here when they were saying those things. I was a law clerk at the Supreme Court when they were trashing H.W. Bush, and they loved it. He was a blue blood from Connecticut.
He's a gentleman. He's a wimp.
But they said they made him out to be not very smart, believe it or not. So anyway, it's great that people can take this moment. We know who's telling the truth, who's been naughty, and who's been nice. We had a great show. We had a great show.
By the way, you're getting coal in your stocking, Ingram. You deserve it. You're in trouble all the time.
Wait, okay.
Just saying.
I have something on its way to you already, by the way. You like McDonald Land gift certificates, right? Those ones with the...
Oh, great.
50 cents
McDonald's gift certificate. Yeah. I appreciate it.
All right, Hannity,
I love
great
McDonald's.
Show.
I'm good with it.
Me too.
Thanks.
All right. I'm Laura Ingraham. This is the Ingraham Angle from Washington, D.C. Ahead, we have a packed show for you tonight. Does the left think half of America is not just wrong, but really stupid? Well, it's a serious question, and one that's now front and center, given some recent comments by Democratic leaders. I'm going to explain in just a few moments. Plus, did a Massachusetts district court judge actually help a fugitive illegal alien evade ICE custody? A federal investigation has now been launched. We have the details. They're going to knock your socks off, okay? Again, I'm from New England, and New England is always surprising me. And also tonight, one leftist celeb is taking aim at black NRA members tonight, a debate about the continued marginalization of African-American conservatives later in the show. And more Christmas songs have been banned by the very unfun. No, they're fun killers on the left. They're killing fun all over the country. And some disgusting Christmas toys, though, are all the rage. We're going to examine the body language of George H.W. Bush's funeral. Believe it or not, there's some people speculating that certain people were, well, we'll tell you. And that's seen and unseen with Raymond Arroyo. But first, Democrats defining intelligence down. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Now, despite their big gains in the House and the midterms, Democrats still may not get it. They have a new line. They've been testing it out. All right, ready for this? They're now the smartest people in the room who have all the answers, even if you're too stupid to understand it.
One of the things that we Democrats have a really hard time is connecting to people's hearts instead of here. We're really good at shoving out all the information that touch people here but not here. We Democrats know so much. That is true. And we have to kind of tell everybody how smart we are, and so we have a tendency to be very left-brain.
Now, lest you think this is some isolated idea, all right, that we're just so smart we have trouble connecting with you. It's actually something that's shared fairly widely. And two of the latest forebearers, by the way, of the Democratic Party.
Do you really think Donald Trump has the temperament to be commander-in-chief? Imagine him in the Oval Office facing a real crisis.
He just says, well, I'm going to negotiate a better deal. What magic wand do you have? And usually the answer is he doesn't have an answer. This office has a way of waking you up. His positions or predispositions that don't match up with reality, he will find shaken up pretty quick.
Okay, the obvious implication being that Donald Trump and those Americans who voted for him are just a bunch of dumb rubes. Now, let's face it. When Trump won in 2016, look, you can see Obama there. He's still shell-shocked back in November 2016. Well, Trump embarrassed a lot of the so-called experts, the consultants, the pollsters, the strategists, all the big thinkers in the establishment class. So feeling suddenly diminished, they lashed out at Trump, belittling his intelligence.
The problem here is that the president doesn't read. We know that.
Isn't it remarkable how little confidence Donald Trump's own lawyers have in him? That they think he's too stupid to sit across the table with Robert Mueller?
Almost caveman-like.
Have you seen it?
It really is. He's like Fred Flintstone running the country.
It's a man without curiosity. It's a man who doesn't read. It's a man with an attention span of a rabid tsetse fly.
Okay. Well, that's going back. Mark Shields. Well, they said similar things, by the way, about Reagan. Until he died, of course, and then they all pretended that they never said any of the mean stuff they said about him for his 2 terms in office. Liberals claim to be for the little guy. You know, they're the champions of the average person. But they're really elitist snobs at heart. Maureen Dowd, New York Times columnist, used to write these pieces mocking the cultural and culinary tastes of Bush 41 and Barbara. You know, he ate pork rinds, and the 2 of them watched things like America's Funniest Home Videos on TV on Sunday nights. The subtext was always, look at the Bushes, Ivy League blue bloods, but still unsophisticated and, frankly, not all that smart. Well, here's a news flash for everybody. No one who becomes president is dumb, especially not Trump, who managed to beat not 1, but 2 political dynasties to win the White House. Remember all the dire predictions made by all those political and business savants about a Trump presidency?
If the unlikely event happens and Trump wins, you will see a market crash of historic proportions.
In the event Donald wins, I have no doubt in my mind the market tanks.
Donald Trump is moving us toward World War III.
The lack of a diplomatic and serious engagement strategy, in my view, has us sliding toward war by next summer.
We can just play this all night long. Let's not even have a show, because that is really entertaining. Democrats and their allies imply that they have a monopoly on intelligence and brain power. But if that's true, why have they screwed things up so badly when they had the chance to fix them? While Trump identified the threats, for instance, posed by China, and has challenged them, who can forget Bill Clinton pushing for China's acceptance on the world stage with his misguided WTO push?
This agreement is a good deal for America. Our products will gain better access to China's market, but China gains no new market access to the United States. We'll gain tough new safeguards against surges of imports and maintain the strongest possible rules against dumping products that have hurt Americans in the past.
Oh, my God. Rhodes Scholar, Yale undergrad, Yale Law School, and like many others, he didn't see the obvious coming. China has manipulated and distorted world markets, engaged in blatant ransacking of our intellectual property, and dumped heavily subsidized products into the United States, leading to the loss of millions of U.S. jobs. The CEO of Minnesota's Cambria, it makes quartz countertops, told us earlier this week how China targets U.S. manufacturers for the sole purpose of destroying them and then dominating the market.
They're subsidized by their government. The People's Republic of China is not a friendly participant in a free enterprise economy in America. They subsidize their companies, they run their banks, they're state-owned, and they're going after American manufacturing.
But no worries, because Democrats have all the answers. Now, remember President Obama assuring us, by the way, that his cabinet would be staffed with the best and the brightest?
We're on track to flip the switch on October 1st.
We are on track to have the marketplace up and running on October 1st. I'm confident that we will be up and running and on track on October 1st. I mean, nobody says the site is working the way we want it to. Certainly the president acknowledged that yesterday. No one could be more frustrated than I am and the president that this isn't smooth.
All right, $120 million or so, right, to get that website? Was it more? And they couldn't get a website working. Like a freshman at MIT could get the website working. Who can forget the Obama administration's foreign policy flops? Again, these are the smart people, remember. Mazie Hirono said we're too smart for our own good. Remember when he designated the Muslim Brotherhood as moderate Islamists in Egypt? And he called Iran's President Rouhani a moderate reformer?
We are encouraged that President Rouhani received from the Iranian people a mandate to pursue a more moderate course. Iran's genuine commitment to go down a different path will be good for the region and the world.
It's been awesome so far. And how about all the geopolitical geniuses at Hillary's State Department allowing our ambassador to travel to Benghazi when we knew about repeated security threats and an unstable situation on the ground? He and 3 others ended up dead. Trump removed the rose-colored glasses, and what he did is he confronted the rogue powers in the region as they exist. Trump's foreign policy is more pragmatic and prudent. He doesn't believe in nation building, nor does he believe passivity is the answer in the face of real threats. But the Democrats, they feel like, come on, they have the wind at their backs now. Forget all the stuff that happened, all our predictions that came out. Well, they didn't come out to be true at all. But they feel like they have a head of steam now, and maybe you can kind of understand it. They picked up 40 seats in the House. But right now, what I'm seeing, there is very little evidence that they've learned much about America. Why they voted in the first place for Donald Trump, and why they still support so many of his policies, especially on trade and immigration. And for all the Democrats' star power, they couldn't win the big races in Florida, Texas, or Georgia. Why not? I'll tell you why. In part, they have not come to terms with the fact that their decades of errors paved the way for Donald Trump. But I'll tell you this, at least Senator Claire McCaskill, of course, she lost her re-election bid, she seemed to have learned something, telling NPR, I don't think my vote against Kavanaugh hurt me as much as the spectacle that occurred. There were mistakes made by my party in terms of how that was handled. Well, I'll say. The bright lights of the Democratic Party, though, they thought that the American people would rally behind them. And they set about to destroy the life of a man who actually is brilliant and one of the finest judges in America. Well, instead, most fair-minded people, maybe they didn't go to Yale Law School, they saw the campaign of the Democrats, a campaign of personal destruction for what it was, insidious. I don't know what the next 2 years is going to bring. But before you sweat the warnings of the expert class, remember just how much they screwed up over the past 30 years or so. And that's the angle. Here now, Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA founder and president, Andrew Yarrow, senior fellow of the Progressive Policy Institute and author of the book Man Out, and Scott Levinson, Democratic strategist and president of Advance Group. Andrew, now, you wrote a piece recently about how the Democrats have foolishly written off white America. And it kind of dovetails into, we dovetail into each other, what I'm talking about here. They're very smart. So why did they screw up so much, and why did they lose that part of America?
Well, it's a big failing of the Democratic Party. I mean, they basically ignored the concerns and even put down the concerns and problems of lots of white American men. And, you know, you hear the disdain in many Democrats, not all, and their voices or their expressions, you know. The deplorables itself is a deplorable.
Clinging to their guns and religion, to the deplorables. Charlie Kirk, you've talked about this a lot. The Democrats have always tried to champion or claim that they champion the little guy. Yeah. We're going to help you up. But here you got this billionaire guy, Trump comes along. His policies are actually helping the little guy.
They took a billionaire from New York to champion the wants and needs of middle America, which is now everywhere between Manhattan and Malibu. But look, they've called them slow-petted, you know, us from the Midwestern part of the country, slow-petted, you know, Bible thumpers and clingers to their God, gun, and religion. And over a period of time, they start to become the ruling class. And you look at Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, they are that ruling class where your proximity to Washington, D.C. Dictates how much wealth and power you have. And the best indication of this, the wealthiest counties in America are right around here in Washington, D.C. 8 out of 10 of the wealthiest counties in America are around Washington, D.C.
Big government. Big government pays big money.
Cronyist deals to Washington. And middle America saw in Donald Trump finally a populist hero that talked about trade and immigration in a way that no one had for a long, long time.
Scott, Mazie Hirono's comment just really I found it interesting on a number of levels because I don't think she realized that she was speaking truth to power in a way, because a lot of us have been watching this slow-moving train wreck against blue-collar America, both from Democrats and Republicans who missed the boat on China, they missed the boat on immigration, they missed the boat on NAFTA. And Mazie Hirono said, look, we're just too smart. We can't really connect with the hearts of America.
No, that's actually not what she said, Laura. What she said was it's a struggle to make things digestible. And that's true.
Because Americans are too stupid to understand their wages are flatlining?
I'm sorry you feel that way, Laura. I'm sure you don't really feel that way, but you keep repeating that you think that Americans are too stupid. I don't know why you would repeat that.
Because
when it
Hillary
is, in fact,
called them the deplorables, and Obama said they were clinging to guns and religion.
Just over the last week, we've had a complete attack on intellectualism by the Republican Party. This administration started with an attack on Obamacare. It failed. The fact is they tried to destroy Obamacare, and Americans recognized that all they were doing was posturing. They didn't really care about the health care of America because these are complex issues that have to be debated and discussed and strategized over. The answer is not just to kill Obamacare, nor is the answer when people... Excuse me. Laura, if you could just let me finish the thought. Just let me thought. That's just my thought. No, but when the president has experts study for
renegotiate NAFTA, let me ask you a question and see if you can answer the question.
I was just finishing the thought.
No, let me ask you a question, a simple question about NAFTA. You're not going to answer, Charlie.
Right, so look,
you got to answer a question.
If the ruling class and the philosopher kings were really that smart, the VA wouldn't have been a total mess for 20 years. And NAFTA wouldn't have decimated the middle part of the country.
We had Republican presidents during those 20 years.
I'll let you go on your diatribe.
Okay?
Let me finish.
But it's your diatribe. The fact is, why be anti-intellectual? Why not face the real crisis?
Both political parties for the last 30 or 40 years. And now you see the Democrats say, just trust us with more power. We just haven't implemented our full plan yet. And this is exactly where the rebellion of Donald Trump was rooted in. It was that, you know what, the American people know better than the rulers here in Washington.
Yeah, Chris Matthews actually had a comment, I thought that was fairly interesting, about how the Democrats have become the elitists. They were always railing against the elites. Yes. Everyone likes smart people. Smart people are great. So, Andrew, you were miscasting what we were saying. Just take a breath, let me play something for you, and then you can react. Because I would assume you don't think Chris Matthews is a member of the right-wing conspiracy. Listen to what he said in June. Stop talking. Listen. Stop talking.
A true Democrat, lowercase d, thinks they're no better than anybody else. That's what a Democrat is. And when the party regains that with white, black, Hispanic people, everybody starts to think of themselves as one of them instead of being better than them, they'll get back to the party of the people. And they're not there yet. There's too many elitisms. There's so much elitism in the Democratic Party. It's so outrageous.
Andrew, you disagree with Matthews?
No, not really. I mean, I think there are parts of it that's right. I mean, there are problems with both political parties. There's problems with Washington for a long time here. But the thing about the Democrats, and the thing that has really gotten to bother me, is the political correctness that, you know, they can't see men's problems, which I talk about in my book, Man Out. Instead, they see men as the problem. You know, they don't look at the concerns of men who are out of work, struggling for fatherhood and families, men who are struggling with poor health, mental health, and men who don't know what it means to be a man today.
Yeah, since Andrew took a bite at that one, Scott, let me read this from Tim Ryan, who actually had another interesting point about all this. We'll put it up on the screen. The Achilles heel of the Democratic brand is that we look elitist and judgmental. Democrat from the old Rust Belt of Ohio. Your reaction to that?
The fact is, when we look at trying to find a solution to the global crisis of warming in our environment, that's us trying to take a stab at a difficult policy issue, not deny it like the president has. In the face of experts, we're trying to deal with the policy challenge, not deny it. Same was true with health care. We're trying to address a policy challenge, not throw everybody out of health care. What Americans want, which is why we gained 40 seats, is health care that works. They didn't want health care just thrown out. That is why we gained seats, Laura. And you could deny that we gained seats this year?
Well, we actually
we
said
did
that
so
in the
for a
angle,
real
but
reason.
you might not have been
We
listening.
did,
Okay.
no, I did.
I
actually
made that point in the angle, but you weren't listening, which is why liberals don't learn.
What is
you don't listen to what the people are telling you.
What is important to do is understand why we picked up seats, Laura.
Right.
Why
well,
we picked up seats.
I know why you picked up seats. There's a whole bunch of reasons. But Charlie, let's talk about what, and just as we close here, specifically on the issue of a very complicated issue like trade. You have Bob Lighthizer, you have Wilbur Ross, you have Stephen Vaughn inside the USTR. You have the finest thinkers on the issue of trade that we've ever had in the U.S. government, ever. And I worked for Reagan, ever. They're smart, they're getting it done, and they already made huge headway.
Yes.
Obama promised it, and Clinton thought about it. Never would happen.
The difference is you have very smart people finally negotiating for the American people, not for big transnational corporations trying to benefit foreign nations such as China so they can dump their products here. And the other important point is liberals, they say, like, oh, we're for gun control. They walk around with armed guards. They want open borders, yet they live with walls in their gated communities. They're against school choice, and they send their kids to private schools.
All right, guys.
They're the ultimate.
All right, thank you so much. The church, by the way, politicizing a nativity scene to protest President Trump's immigration policies, and did a liberal district court judge actually help an illegal alien evade ICE custody? Wait until you hear these stories next. We've long told you about activist judges undermining Trump's immigration policies, but this next story is outrageous. A district court judge in Massachusetts is accused of helping an illegal immigrant sneak out a back door to avoid being deported. Here's the backstory. Jose Medina Perez of the Dominican Republic was in court on drug charges and also faced a fugitive warrant for drunk driving. In a new audio recording obtained by the Boston Globe, his defense attorney is heard at the bench with the prosecutor and Judge Shelley Joseph. They raised doubt about whether Medina Perez had been correctly identified by ICE and whether he should be set free. Listen.
I don't think it's him. ICE is convinced that this guy, I went through the research, there's 13 alien laws connected to this situation. So something is bad. The client denies that it's him. They say to watch it before they do it. But I think the best thing for us to do is clear the fugitive issue, do something personal.
If we need more time to figure this out until tomorrow, this is going to get him. What if we continue? Larry, can you go off the record for a moment?
Now, minutes after that recording, witnesses say the illegal was escorted out a back door and then released from custody. He then scaled a fence and escaped. We should note he has not been caught. Joining me now, Leo Terrell, a civil rights attorney, and Brian Kelly, a former federal prosecutor in Massachusetts. Brian, I want to start with you. How unique is it to have a federal investigation into a sitting state court judge on an issue such as this?
Well, it's not common at all, Laura. It's a bizarre set of facts, right? The defendant is arrested on drug charges. He's been deported twice before, and then because, for whatever reason, the judge turns off the tape recorder, contrary to court rules, we don't really know what she says next. Next thing you know, he's running out the back door onto the streets of Boston. So I think even by Massachusetts standards, this is a little bit too much judicial activism, and it's led to, according to the Boston Globe, a federal investigation, a grand jury investigation, and that in and of itself is quite unusual.
Well, he has since been caught. I want to make sure I get that right. So he's since been caught, but the underlying facts of this are really disturbing. Governor Charlie Baker spoke out about this. Leo, I want your reaction. Let's watch.
The facts of this case as presented by the media indicate a willful attempt to obstruct the work of a federal law enforcement official, and that's an inappropriate role for a judge.
Now, I guess Judge Shelley has not been on the bench very long, but nevertheless, Leo, would you say, Judge Joseph, would you say that this is warranted? Is this extrajudicial conduct? I mean, when you look up activist judge, this is really activist judge. It's not just a ruling. This is go.
Well, Laura, hi. Thanks for having me. And first of all, we're going after the judge. What about the prosecutor, the defense attorney, and the officer who allowed him out to escape? I find this really odd because, as the governor said, based on the facts from the public, Where's the investigation of the district attorney and the prosecutor? Wasn't there a conspiracy when they all got before the judge and said all these things? So I think my colleague who's on the show is ignoring the prosecutor who represents the state of Massachusetts and the defense attorney. Why single out the judge? Why? I'm confused. And
well,
one other point.
Does the judge not have control of his own courtroom?
Why?
Brian.
Well, I think people expect a judge to uphold the law, interpret the law, but not subvert the law. So I think the focus is on the judge right now because it's such a bizarre set of facts. And so that's why I think the judge is under investigation. We don't know what the grand jury will find. Apparently, according to the Boston Globe, they are investigating. They're hearing different witnesses. So who knows where it will lead? But this is not what taxpayers who pay their salary.
Are you on national TV? Are you on national TV saying that it was just the judge and nobody else? And you know as well as I do, being a federal prosecutor, that there got to be some evidence where the judge actively instructed someone, and you're just speculating right now. And we don't, as attorneys,
wait a minute.
We're speculating.
Look, there's evidence on the record where she says ICE is going to get him, and then in violation of the court rules, she turns off the tape recorder. And she doesn't turn off the tape recorder because she's obeying the court rules. She knows she's doing something, it seems, that's not appropriate. And next thing you know, the defendant, an illegal alien, is running out the back door onto the streets of Boston.
Well, now, he knew what he was getting here. He was getting literally getting a get out of deportation free card. Okay, that's what he was getting here.
Well, here.
If this defendant,
and Laura. What about, why don't we just get the prosecutor on the Laura Ingraham show, the prosecutor and the defense attorney, and say, what did the judge say? We got direct evidence.
Leo, I love you, and if you want to be my booker, Andrew will not be happy about that. Okay, let me just say that. But we'll always take booking help, and I love that. But here's the problem: is in Massachusetts we have at least some of the counties are sanctuary counties. Boston itself is a sanctuary city, correct? So this is kind of in the DNA now of Boston, that you don't want to release people out the front door of the courtroom because ICE is going to, on occasion, we hope more than on occasion, be there to arrest them once they're released. And they know that. Well, that's why they go out the back door. Sneak out the back door.
I guess we now have sanctuary courtrooms.
Good
point. Well, let me just say this. Based on that, well, if you are having a sanctuary city, you have just stated that every official who endorsed a state-sponsored sanctuary city should be arrested for failing to cooperate with ICE. That's what you're basically saying.
That might go a little far, but not. Well, you're getting warm. You're getting warm, Leo. All right, great to meet you guys. Thanks so much. And with the Christmas season comes what? Santa, candy canes, headaches from shopping, nativity scenes? Well, but this year, instead of being surrounded by adoring animals, baby Jesus is surrounded by a cage. That's right. Why are we in Massachusetts again? Massachusetts church is trying to send a message about Trump's immigration policy by putting the baby Jesus in a big square cage. Where are the three wise men? Separated by a metal fence, reading the book Deportation. Here's the pastor defending this decision.
65 million refugees worldwide seeking a better way of life. And we were wondering what that might look like 2,000 years ago if this family encountered the same dynamics that are taking place in our own country right now.
First of all, if he's a priest, where's his collar? Although I like the plaid, looking good, but could we find a collar? And that's not the first time, by the way, this church has waded into politics. Last year, that same nativity scene had baby Jesus surrounded by a list of the deadliest mass shootings in U.S. history. Joining me now with reaction, Dan Bongino, host of the Dan Bongino Show. Dan, how is this? This is literally separating church and state with the cage, right? Maybe that's where we are?
You know, Laura, I read an interesting piece a while ago about how the government had this really incredible success with stopping smoking. And the reason they did was because everyone out there knew someone who smoked, right? So they knew how to talk to those people. It was a mom, a dad, a brother, right? The problem with liberals is, as in with this case, the priest and the folks in the church said, well, we were just looking to spark a conversation. This way? Like, why when liberals want to spark a conversation, do they always do it in the worst way possible, like taking advantage of a nativity scene? It reminds me of, like, the Kaepernick case, right? He takes a knee. Okay, you want to talk about police use of force? Fine. But he puts a pair of socks on with cops depicted as pigs. It's just like, listen, we can talk about immigration, but clearly liberals have not learned that putting a cage around baby Jesus is probably not the way to, quote, spark a conversation.
In some parts of the country, they had to put, like, they had to actually kind of put baby Jesus and have ties to the ground because people would steal the baby Jesus. I mean, people would take the wise men, that's why a live nativity scene is always better. It's harder to physically take the people and the animals, but they actually will steal them. So at first when I saw it, I think, oh God, they really need a lot of security here for the manger scene, but they're trying to make a point. All right, so the lefty priest says this in the Boston Globe. We thought we would kind of put a mirror image of what it would look like if this happened 2,000 years ago. It's kind of a mirror image of where we are at today. Move over, Thomas Aquinas. What? I don't even understand that. Yeah. What is he talking about? He's a mirror and... Go ahead.
2,000 years ago, Laura, we didn't have the Airbus or the 747, okay? There wasn't a way to transport millions of people into a sovereign nation at any given time. Listen, with all due respect, I'm a practicing Catholic. I love my faith. My wife is an immigrant to this country. I'm not anti-immigrant. I'm anti-law breaking. You have to come here legally like my wife did. This isn't a complicated argument. And one more thing, to the liberals, do you have to be a blowtorch on everything? Do you have to blow up? And I mean, they've destroyed Halloween. Halloween now, every costume, every parent has to worry if it's cultural appropriation. You couldn't wear the Black Panther costume, apparently, if your kid wasn't black. This was an actual controversy. They blew up Thanksgiving for colonialism or whatever, liberal victimhood of the day. Can we just leave baby Jesus alone?
They're not fun people.
Friends
I'm
don't
sorry,
let friends mess with baby Jesus. Just leave baby Jesus alone. Let us enjoy Christmas. I'm begging you. Just give us one holiday.
Dan, there's no room at the inn for baby Jesus, and there's no room in America for the thousands and thousands of people in Tijuana. Okay, it's a mirror image, as this priest said. No wonder fewer people are going to church. Stick with the gospel and leave the theatrics and the props to other people. Dan, thank you so much. And when it comes, coming up, we have a related topic. More Christmas songs are being added to the Do Not playlist this year. We're going to examine the body language also at George H.W. Bush's funeral, some are talking about. That and Seen and Unseen with Raymond Arroyo next. It's time now for Seen and Unseen, tonight's edition. Verboten Christmas songs and gross toys. Last week we told you about a station banning, well, you just heard, baby, it's cold outside, from their airwaves. And now a new ABC piece suggesting that other songs could be just as problematic. So if the left-wing Grinches have their way, you may have to stop singing all the songs you love to sing. Really? Joining us now with all the details, Raymond Arroyo, Fox News contributor, New York Times bestselling author of the Will Wilder series. All right, Raymond, what in the good Lord's name is going on?
Laura, ABC and others are trying to create their own index of prohibited Christmas songs, starting with It's Beginning to Look a Lot Like Gender Rigidity. Watch.
A pair of hop-along boots and a pistol that shoots is the wish of Barney and Ben. Dolls will talk and we'll go for a walk is the hope of Janice and Jen.
That line is offensive, Laura, because, here's the quote, it offers no help in dispelling the myth that dolls are just for girls and guns for boys. Now, songs reflect an era. This was written in 1951 by Meredith Willson.
It also reflects reality.
Right.
My sons can find a gun in any twig pile or any...
Well, when my boys were little, they'd turn Lego into guns. It doesn't matter. You could take guns away from them. They'd find sticks and turn it into guns.
I mean, that's so what?
They naturally
Not all
gravitate
boys
to
like that, but a lot of them
do. ABC's also targeting the Eartha Kitt hit, Santa Baby.
Hate this song.
Oh, well, listen.
Okay.
Think of all the fun I've missed. Think of all the fellas that I haven't kissed. Next year I could be oh so good if you check off my Christmas list.
Now, Laura, they say that song is full, ABC does. It's full of sexual...
Oh, unlike everything else on ABC.
Right. Everything else in the culture. And they say,
are you kidding me?
It implies all that a woman must do to end up on Santa's nice list. All the songs from this era, Laura, were about innuendo, but they weren't gratuitous and explicit,
it wasn't,
unlike the age we find ourselves.
When Santa said ho ho ho, it went one thing. Now, but in other songs, it might mean something else.
They're going to ban your show if you keep.
Well, no, I'm saying they can do anything and say anything that is the most objectifying of women and frankly men as well. And they're like, oh, this is free expression. Turn it off if you don't like it.
Well, here's Mariah Carey's hit, "All I Want for Christmas."
Oh,
it too, ABC put on their list of do not play during the holidays. Now they say they say this focuses on a woman wanting nothing but a man for Christmas. It's not the most empowering or evolved message for women. God forbid they listen to Blue Christmas or What Are You Doing New Year's Eve? Those are all desperate people, you know, wanting a partner. This is called human experience. It's what song is meant to capture. Love, sex, desire.
So the Stones can't get no satisfaction. That's okay with them, though?
I guess. You know, these people should go in the corner and hum Greensleeves to themselves. I'd tell them to sing Ave Maria, but blessed among women might cause problems because where are the men and the others?
Oh, no. Let's get to some of the more sought-after toys this season, Raymond. What are they?
Now, well, this is related, Laura, to the song bans we're talking about, because on the one hand, they're playing Puritan, saying, you can't listen to that song, it's too gross. On the other hand, the hottest toys of the season are so gratuitous and disgusting, I hesitate to even share them with you. One is called
go ahead.
Pimple Pete. Here we go. Pimple Pete. You actually squeeze and twist his zits for points.
What?
And if you pull too hard, look, it's a video. If you pull too hard, his nose explodes and the mega zit juice will wash across the players. How do you imagine this?
I dated someone like that.
Well, this is something I used to try to avoid. Now you play it for fun.
Well, it's all part of life.
How about this one? Flush and Frenzy. You plunge the toilet, and after you hit it a number of times, okay, once you plunge it too many times, the poop goes flying and you have to catch it. Now, why are we teaching our children to play with feces? Why?
My son Nico never flushes the toilet. So if this encourages him to flush ever, how many times do I say to him, Nico, have you flushed? Yes. I said, oh, really? I have to be the poop police and go over it and
if that poop's flopping out of the toilet, you got big plumbing problems in the Ingraham household.
Remember, what was your favorite toy growing up? Like, did you like Battleship or like Rock'em Sock'em Robot?
My favorite toy was a Nerf gun. I had this Nerf gun, and I broke things in the house, and it wasn't pretty.
Battleship?
We have to talk for a few moments about the Bush funeral now.
Something important.
This is very important. There were some moments we want to decode for you. The body language was quite revealing. Now, here are the former presidents and their wives before President Trump's arrival. You can see they're interacting here. Go full screen on this, guys. They're jovial. They're interacting. Everybody's talking and happy. Michelle and President Clinton are laughing. Then President Trump arrives. He shakes President Obama's hand, grudgingly shakes Mrs. Obama's hand. Catch the look on Mrs. Obama. Now everybody suddenly becomes still lives at Madame Tussauds. Look at Hillary. Hillary wouldn't even look down the aisle. She is staring at that altar like her life depends on it.
She hasn't averted her gaze. No. Is there anything you can tell us about? Well, there was one point where Donald Trump crossed his arms.
He did during the service. He did cross his arms.
Crossing arms is not the best because it looks
a protective gesture.
It's like it looks like you're worried about something. You're like
it's a protective gesture.
Loosen up.
Well, they were icy and a bit cold to him, and their body language, which was open and before he arrived, suddenly got very rigid.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah. And well, then later, President Bush came in, and he greeted each of the people in the first pew. Watch this. Look at the reaction. Then he hands Michelle Obama a mint. Remember, he handed her a mint at the McCain funeral. So look at the change.
Slow-mo. I like the slow-mo move.
But again, everybody kind of warms
but he's
up,
laughing,
but he steps right over.
Well, let me say, W is funny as all get out.
He's a very
so funny,
guy. Yep.
and I thought he did a great job today.
He did.
I got teared up. That was
a very moving tribute to his father.
Question, we're out of time. What was it with the overcoat?
President Trump came in with the overcoat.
He got hit on Twitter for the overcoat.
You know, it was
walked into
outside.
the overcoat, and then he handed it to the The Marine.
He handed it to the Marine who took it all, outside and put it in the car.
Like, that's an autocrat because maybe he's cold.
Yeah, maybe he was cold and walked in with the coat and forgot to leave it in the car. It's not the end of the world. But the interplay between the presidents, always interesting to watch.
All right, fantastic. And coming up, by the way, green sleeves. Now I'm going to have that in my head.
Don't you love? I love green sleeves. I'm going to go home.
Depressing song. All right, coming up. Why is leftist celeb Tom Arnold calling out African American gun owners? This can't miss debate. Next. It's time now for Seen and Unseen. Tonight's edition: verboten Christmas songs and gross toys. Last week we told you about a station banning. Well, you just heard, baby, it's cold outside from their airwaves. And now a new ABC piece suggesting that other songs could be just as problematic. So if the left-wing Grinches have their way, you may have to stop singing all the songs you love to sing. Really? Joining us now with all the details, Raymond Arroyo, Fox News contributor, New York Times bestselling author of the Will Wilder series. All right, Raymond, what in the good Lord's name is going on?
Laura, ABC and others are trying to create their own index of prohibited Christmas songs, starting with "It's beginning to look a lot like gender rigidity." Watch.
A pair of hop-along boots and a pistol that shoots is the wish of Barney and Ben. Dolls will talk and we'll go for a walk is the hope of Janice and Jen.
That line is offensive, Laura, because, here's the quote, "It offers no help in dispelling the myth that dolls are just for girls and guns for boys." Now, songs